Cobra Kai has landed on Netflix and now everyone wants to be a true Cobra. Well, if you want to call yourself a Cobra, here are 25 facts about Cobra Kai that you need. There are a lot of remakes, reboots, and long-awaited sequels out there that don't always seem to be very proud of their source material. We've all seen a movie that's based on something popular from the 80s that misses the entire point of why the property was great in the first place. Well, Cobra Kai is definitely not one of those shows. Cobra Kai loves the Karate Kid so much that it actually shows us more of it than we got in the movie. That's right, if something about that LaRusso versus Lawrence fight seemed new to you, that's because it was. There was a lot of footage from the original that got left on the cutting room floor. What you see of the famous final match in the series is vintage Karate Kid repurposed for the new series. Cobra Kai does a fantastic job of setting itself up as the next generation of the Karate Kid franchise. One of the coolest ideas that the show plays around with is that Daniel LaRusso is now the new Mr. Miyagi. He uses bonsai trees in his advertisements, makes Japanese food, and even opens up his own dojo to honor his former master. He even uses the same wax-on, wax-off method of training. The main reason that this works is that LaRusso seems to be about Miyagi's age now. Only that's not entirely accurate. Ralph Macchio is actually 5 years older than Pat Morita was during the original film. Apparently, selling cars and doing karate is really good for the skin. The television show goes to great lengths to show that things have changed drastically for LaRusso and Lawrence since the first movie came out. In the original film, LaRusso was the scrappy poor kid who moved into a cheap apartment with his mother. Lawrence, on the other hand, was the overprivileged rich kid who became LaRusso's nemesis. Only now, the two have switched, with LaRusso rolling in the big bucks while Lawrence struggles just to pay rent. If you look closely, you can see that they've even designed Lawrence's apartment to look much like the LaRusso family home in the original. It's that level of care and attention to detail that truly makes Cobra Kai a worthy successor to the original. For years, there was an incredibly popular fan theory that recontextualized every single event in The Karate Kid. You see, the original film was framed around Daniel's perspective. We saw him struggle to fit into a new school, seeing as he was a poor kid from New Jersey. Then, things got better when he met the beautiful Allie. Of course, that's when things took a turn, and he started getting bullied by Lawrence and the Cobra Kais to the point that he had to learn karate to defend himself. Well, the fan theory actually stated that LaRusso was actually the villain the whole time. He starts almost every confrontation with Lawrence and the Cobras. He tried to take Johnny's girl. He even used an illegal kick to win in the end. Cobra Kai not only brought up this theory, but built a show around it. Who do you think is the villain? The Karate Kid is one of those movies that is so classic that literally every aspect of it is iconic. Cobra Kai goes to great lengths to recreate as much of that magic as is possible. Everything from the Cobra uniforms to the dojo fits the spirit of the original film perfectly. It is a masterclass on how to recreate a world that was formed decades ago and fit it to the spirit of the modern day. That being said, some things you just can't recreate. Sometimes the best way to bring back the spirit of the past is to have something from the past as a totem. That's why it is so cool that Daniel LaRusso's headband that he uses as a symbol for his return to karate is actually the headband from the original movie. You can't get better than that. Cobra Kai Season 1 was so great that it almost seemed impossible for the second season to improve upon it. The series followed the formula that made The Karate Kid such an instant classic, but it came at the story from an entirely new perspective that makes you rethink every single scene of the original film. That's why it was so impressive that Season 2 blew the original one away. One of the coolest ways it did this was by having the original Cobras reunite. It was tragic that Tommy ended up passing away, but what was more tragic is that actor Rob Garrison, who played Tommy, passed away shortly after the episode was released. Let's face it, we all love catching up with Johnny and Daniel after so many years, but Cobra Kai would have utterly failed if it didn't deliver a compelling new generation of fighters to carry on their legacy. That is not an easy task, as each of these characters had to perform complex fight scenes that I know I couldn't handle. Luckily, many of the members of the cast were martial artists or had experience in dance choreography to help with the stunts. The actor who plays Miguel studies Shotokan karate, for instance, which probably helps with those savage Cobra Kai moves that he unleashes upon his enemies. I wonder if any of them have started to incorporate the Cobra Kai philosophy into their martial arts. If so, I'd hate to be their competition. It often seems like Daniel LaRusso has the perfect life. He's got a beautiful wife and kids, his car dealership is amazing, and honestly, he looks so young that you'd never realize that the actress who plays his wife is a full 20 years younger than he is. Things at the LaRusso home aren't always perfect, though. As we saw in Season 1, tensions between his wife and mother tend to run pretty hot. Daniel struggles to deal with this, considering how great a mom she was way back in the original movie. To drive this point home, the series made sure to get the original actress Randy Heller back for the new series. There are few beefs in the history of film that run as deep as the one between Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. These two are enemies for the ages, so much so that they managed to make an entire series around the two, reigniting the beef decades later. So how crazy is it to find out that real-life actors Ralph Macchio and William Zabka were friends? Yes, the two confirmed that while their characters may have hated each other, the two bonded quite a lot over the years. Evidently, that bond grew deeper when the actor who played Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita, sadly passed away. Still though, something about it doesn't sit right. It'd be like finding out that Batman and the Joker actually owned a bed and breakfast together in Gotham City. The wait between the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai was a long time for fans of the series to see William Zabka and Ralph Macchio reunite. That being said, Cobra Kai wasn't actually the first series to feature the pair coming back together. In an episode of the sitcom How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson reveals that he believes Johnny Lawrence to be the real Karate Kid while Daniel LaRusso is the villain. That's why it was so hilarious to see Ralph Macchio crash his bachelor party with a personality that mirrored Barney's. What was even better was the eventual reveal that the party clown his friends got him was actually William Zabka all along. You just know Barney's new favorite show is Cobra Kai. The Karate Kid was great, but a series can only rest on the laurels of its original property for so long. The only way a sequel actually proves its worth is by bringing something new to the table. That's why Cobra Kai's trademark 80s nostalgia and hard-cutting wit work well for the franchise. It's no surprise that the creator of the series, Josh Heald, got his start with this exact kind of wit. He was the writer for the Hot Tub Time Machine movie, which also featured plenty of throwback 80s humor, and even Johnny Lawrence himself, William Zabka. While the second Hot Tub Time Machine film may have failed to recapture the magic of the original, Heald wisely decided to pivot to television, where Cobra Kai has thrived. What 80s property should he hit next? Johnny Lawrence had a rough time after the Karate Kid. His life seemed to just go from one disaster to the next as he failed at most of his jobs, as a father and as a husband to his wife Shannon. We see Shannon several times over the series, and let's just say that things probably worked out better for Johnny in the long run here. What's cool about Shannon is that this isn't the first time her and Zabka have appeared together. You see, in Hot Tub Time Machine, Tiora Baird also played Zabka's wife. We may not get to see much of their marriage in Cobra Kai, but at least this is something. Of all the kids in the Karate Kid who don't appear in the series, there is one who casts the largest shadow. That is, of course, the ex-girlfriend of both Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso, Ali. This young beauty seems to have broken both men in different ways, as both seem to look back on their time with her with wistful longing, even if one of them is happily married. For Johnny, it seems like things run deeper. In many ways, she's the one that got away. So that's why it's no surprise that it's being hinted around that Elizabeth Shue may reappear for Cobra Kai. Hey, she still looked good enough to seduce Homelander and the boys, so why not? While Cobra Kai pays a lot of respect to the original Karate Kid movie, it doesn't seem to look as favorably upon the various sequels in the series. I mean, there were several movies and a reboot long before Johnny Lawrence reopened his dojo. I doubt we'll ever hear a reference to the Jaden Smith movie. That being said, it looks like we might see some characters from the first sequel, The Karate Kid Part 2. Daniel LaRusso is said to be returning to Okinawa, and I hope he runs into one of his other big rivals, Chozen. In that film, Chozen was less a martial arts rival than he was a thug who Daniel had to take down. Round 2, anyone? The Karate Kid had a lot of style, even if we're not talking about those sweet Cobra Kai outfits. Seriously though, where do I get one of those? Anyway, one of the coolest things in the original movie was the car that Daniel got to drive around in. He may have had to wax on, wax off the vehicle for Mr. Miyagi, but it was totally worth it in the end. What poor kid doesn't want to cruise around in a sweet ride he'd normally never get to try out? That's probably a big part of the reason why he became a car salesman. This is further exemplified by the exact same car car appearing in the series. The karate may have taught him balance, but that car gave Daniel LaRusso a career. It's kind of funny to think back on the first episode where Lawrence addressed the Cobra Kai crowd. At that time, they thought that his method of teaching was insane and more than a bit outdated. To be fair, even he has admitted that. To a point. That attitude about their sensei didn't last long though. As the characters got more and more into Cobra Kai, you can see that their clothing changed as well. Many times throughout the series, the Cobras wear their Cobra Kai colors to signify their allegiance to Sensei Lawrence and Cobra Kai at all times. At the beginning of the series, Eli was a shy kid with an awkward scar that made him feel like a freak. Kids bullied him for it, and it seemed like he would never be accepted for anything else. If you rewatch that first episode, it's actually shocking how that shy, embarrassed kid is compared to who he would become. That all changed when Lawrence pushed him so hard that he reinvented his entire personality. He got a giant mohawk, a dramatic back tattoo, and a fierce new attitude. Over the run of the show, his scar has slowly faded as well, symbolizing how much he's grown past it. In many ways, Eli is gone. There is only Hawk. In the first episode of the series, Lawrence is shown watching a movie that looks like a cheap ripoff of Top Gun. To be fair, that is the exact type of movie that you know the adult Johnny Lawrence would be all about. That film is called Iron Eagle, and believe it or not, it actually released in 1986, the same year as Top Gun and 2 years after The Karate Kid. It also featured a former Cobra Kai. Rob Garrison, who played Tommy in The Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, had a small role in Iron Eagle as Packer. Man, they really went all out on the Cobra Kai references. There was something incredibly awesome about the original Cobras reuniting after all these years. Sure, it's been great to see Johnny Lawrence reclaim some of his past glory, but that doesn't compare to watching him reunite with his crew from back in the day. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the entire crew back together. In the show, the explanation is that Dutch was in jail. The real reason is that actor Chad McQueen left acting to become a race car driver and then started McQueen Racing LLC. Honestly, turning down a chance at a big Hollywood comeback for your racing company is still a pretty Cobra Kai thing to do. There are a lot of subtle ways that Cobra Kai references the differences between longtime rivals Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. They have different attitudes, different incomes, and completely different fighting styles. In many ways, these two started off as polar opposites and only became more different as time went by. That's why it's so interesting to see the really small nods the show makes to this. Throughout the series, Lawrence is shown to favor cheap beer even when he gets some money. In contrast, Daniel will often drink a martini or a much more expensive beer to show how classy he is by comparison. Man, these guys can't even agree on alcohol. Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso were icons of the 1980s, so it only seems right that the two characters would still be trapped in that decade, even in the 21st century. The running joke for Lawrence is that he seems to have resisted all technological advancements almost as if he had a phobia against them. He barely knows what a website is, has no knowledge of Facebook, and struggles to make a commercial. In sharp contrast, LaRusso's entire home is built around technology, but he seems to hate it. He is constantly trying to get his kids away from their devices and purposefully trains in the woods where he gets no cell reception. Things did not start well for Johnny when he started the Cobra Kai dojo. The clients didn't exactly come pouring in until Miguel showed his skills off to the entire cafeteria. No, at first it seemed like he would barely be able to keep the place running for a month. That was even before LaRusso conspired to get his rent hiked up. The first thing Johnny did was rent his dojo out as a yoga studio to sublet the rent. This was hilarious because yoga represents everything that Cobra Kai stands against. Well, you'd think so anyway. What was the first pose they did in the studio? The Cobra! It's clear that Lawrence and LaRusso have gone in different directions, but the same can be said for their actors William Zabka and Ralph Macchio. The success of The Karate Kid kept Macchio working in some fashion for decades, most recently on HBO's The Deuce. Zabka, however, had a career much like Lawrence's. Before Cobra Kai, it seemed like his acting days were more or less done. That would make Cobra Kai a true resurgence for both character and actor. Never count a true Cobra out. Okay, I gotta be straight up about this one. It's gonna hurt at first, but I promise it has a happy ending. During The Karate Kid, Johnny Lawrence may have known all sorts of sick Cobra Kai moves, but that doesn't mean that the actor did. Yes, I'm sorry to tell you, but William Zabka actually wasn't a martial artist during the filming of the movie. All of that did change, however. After the film, Zabka trained extensively in karate. He did have to retrain to get back into fighting shape for Cobra Kai, but the skills were all there. All I want to know is whether he trained in a normal gi or his Cobra Kai uniform. I have some really great news for you Cobra Kai fans out there. It's not good enough that the show moved to Netflix. No, it has actually been renewed for Season 3. The third run of the popular series has already been shot and will release sometime in 2021. That means that we'll be taught the core principles of Cobra Kai for years. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. There you have it, Cobras. Everything you missed in Cobra Kai. What was your favorite moment from the series? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Screen Rant for more of your favorite content.